I've been to breweries where I feel
Hi,
like
I'm Jeanna Isham. I am the director and a co-creator of this project. I also happen to shoot pretty much all of it and did the editing, that thing.
And I'm Jeanna Isham. I'm the other co-creator. I also wrote the segments on beer history that will be coming up throughout these episodes.
So this project was a long development project that we saw a life beyond just one episode at first, but we weren't quite sure where it was going to start. The big thing that we noticed was that there was, from people we talked to, there was a demand for stories in the alcohol beer industry segment, and we had been wanting to do some sort of show that was focused on beer, because we have this passion for beer as being home brewers and really got into the makeup of it.
And I come from the Northwest, so I am an appreciator of good beers. There's quite an assortment in the Portland area where I came from. And when I moved to the Southern California area, at first, I was very disappointed. And then they started upping their game. And so when we started to talk about our mutual love for beer, it made sense to focus on craft breweries. And Sanctum Brewing made so much sense because it was nearby to us. We knew, or he knew, the owners, and it just kind of flowed. But yeah, I don't think we really knew what the story was when we first started. We just knew that it was a story that needed to be told.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. When we started on this project at the beginning stages, I think they had, in the U.S. alone, craft breweries had just peaked the 4,000 brewery mark. Now, and then by
the time we finished, I think it was at 9,000. It's taken a while to finish.
Just under 9,000 currently in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was originally going to be, this was going to be like the pilot pitch project, and so we saw how it could play out and the story we wanted to tell, and some of the stories that potential distributors and people we were talking with were suggesting to focus on more 100% aligning.
I love this song.
Yeah.
I think this was a pick you did. It feels very
guttural,
very from the earth.
Which is
where beer comes from. Yeah.
This was a fun sequence to do. There's a fine line if you're
Jared did the sequence, by the way, too.
To the I guess the production side of things. There's a fine line between how much effort you put into it and the time it takes to get it done. So we had so many different things to put together for everything. These sections to be one of them, but that was a lot of fun piecing together something for that opening title sequence. This was tough putting together, coming up with something that we feel could work, that wouldn't take another 4 years of putting together, and could help explain these segments that we put together.
For those of you that are out there that are filmmakers, I highly recommend, don't try and start your family and do a documentary series at the same time. The documentary series will take forever. So a lot of the problem was we had two small humans, and one of us always had to be with them. So it took a long time to get this stuff done.
In case you didn't figure it out, we are co-creators and also actual co-creators.
We're married.
We're married.
76,000 people, assuming all 100 million drink.
So yeah, this was a long process of always, probably, guess you could say, second guessing my approach and wanting to do one thing, and then realizing that one approach we wanted to do was not feasible in the amount of time we had to do it or the resources. And so it was reworking. It's like, well, what could we do with what we want? How can it not look
even got into the
like it was just tossed together.
Yeah, and I think also because we approached this kind of backwards, where we didn't quite know the story, we just knew that there was one there. A lot of it was approached, what is the market looking for? What is selling right now? And I feel like once we found our story, we kind of said, okay, well, this is the story. So there's either a market for it or there's not. And I feel like that kind of sped us up a little bit, other than the child issue.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's in this episode. It says it was originally we were going to attempt for 45-minute episodes, and that, as we discovered, that takes so much time, and it was.
Well, wasn't it originally we were just doing a documentary?
We're going to do a single documentary,
right,
like a feature. And then we're like, well, maybe what we do is we'll do it as like a documentary series, like a 45-minute, like the hour-long documentary series. And then we were seeing that the difficulty in getting through the first one with just the amount of footage we needed to acquire, and the amount of days and stuff. I think it ended up being, I was there, probably ended up being like 14 to 18 days of going over there to shoot other interviews, B-roll, different segments, getting shots around town. It stretched over to about between 14 and 18 days. I can't remember. I have to look.
And that goes, yeah, it probably was.
And
that also goes alongside just bad time management, because we didn't have the story yet, so you had to keep going back, going, oh, I need footage of this, and oh, I need footage of that. And
we would edit a sequence, and they talk about something, goes, well, we need this, and so we'd go to do that, and so that was definitely an issue. A big thing, I feel, that I was just talking about something that was very interesting. Totally forgot, but anyway. The length. It was 45 minutes. It was going to be a 45 minute. Then we're like, well, maybe if we can just get one episode out, it can see if that one takes, and we'll determine if we want to do more of them. But it was really hard to get a story that didn't feel like an advertisement with the hour long, and it was easier to crunch it down into the shorter sequence of it.
I did want to, can I interject? What Jason was just talking about here is like his motivation as to why he became a brewer. And I think that's really important, because as we kind of dissected that, I think that's where we found our story, that it's more than just beer. And, it's like people don't just have a brewery because they like to drink beer. There's more than that. And he listed how he wanted to be a pastor, and then he wanted to be a cop, and then he came into the brewery situation, all because he wanted to serve his community. And I think that's key right there to what our story was that this is a community-driven thing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And then we were pretty much just like, you know what? Now's the time if we're going to do anything. I reached out to my dad and just...
So, it was kind of revealing. It was, as he was talking about some stuff, he starts to build in like what the type of culture was that they found in this, and he mentioned something that really resonated with us. It's coming up here. It definitely drove the stories. Like when you are,
that was our aha moment. The part, and we'll point it out when it gets there.
And we walked in this location we're in today, the day after we got in our.
But is the idea of like having something that you're doing something for someone, and because you want to give back, was a huge thing, because we saw such a lack of that in a lot of what was being done. It's such a me culture. It's so cool to find people that are looking outwardly in what they're doing, even in just making beer.
Yeah.
I will say that I love this building.
I love Scott's laugh.
Yeah.
But man,
and this was another cool thing that he starts talking about is they're all small business entrepreneurs, and as we're also creators and making this series, we're also kind of the small business entrepreneurs, and it is a thing like, how do you make things profitable? What is the thing? And these struggles are real for
and
so
the
many
what
people.
ifs.
Lots of what ifs.
and I don't know that that's a bad thing or.
But it's a question many business owners run into, and I'm sure hopefully if some other person looking to starting a brewery will see this and go, okay, these are some things to keep in mind, because this show became more than just, oh, it's about beer, more along the lines of educating people on what craft beer is, assisting small businesses and showing other people's struggles in trying to make something, and then how these people are serving their community were three huge elements that I think popped out in the process of making this.
The lid of the carboy and just smelling beer. You know, a delicious Belgian.
Side note is I would come and bring some home brews, that right there that they're tasting and discussing about. See what they say. Well, whatever it is, that was a homebrew I brought to share with them. So a little insight. They're drinking my beer. Those comments are about the homebrew I brought them. But yeah, for people that are into the like spec world, those big the barrels or whatever they're brewing with their brewing system, it's a 10-barrel system.
So we get together, brew some beer, and then we just started talking. And Scott and I were just like, we're going
10 barrels is, I think.
Let's start a brewery, I guess.
Google how many gallons in a barrel, but it's like something like 10 gallons or like 100 gallons or something.
During World War I. In return, helping to push the country into Prohibition much faster.
It's interesting the politics that popped up.
Yeah, the whole thing about Prohibition and how it failed is just, it's very much like a damn the man situation.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't tell me what to do. And so because of that, it's like, okay, well, never mind. This isn't working.
On January 17th, 1920, the 18th Amendment outlawed the manufacture, sale, or transportation.
And like starting to see these laws that were in place, like it really makes you wonder, like what were they thinking and what was their ultimate outcome, and then also how much oversight was given so that how much corruption was involved in things. So it gives you a different,
because they did have the angle of where they wanted to hold on to the ingredients and stuff, and like the war was hitting, and like they needed they needed stuff for the war, but like
you mentioned, it's mentioned in the script here, like the oversight was that they didn't really use it for what they said they were going to. It just was outlawed.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, when you're a kid and your dad says, don't do that, and you say, why? And he says, because I said so. Like,
Yeah.
Well, but why?
Control of alcohol to the states. Even after the Prohibition.
But then even this as it says, it really slowed down the growth because so much was shut down and they had to rebuild. And, you know, and it talks about it too, about the big three or big five or whatever. They found ulterior ways to use their warehouses and to use what they had so that they could stay in business long enough to survive the Prohibition. So when Prohibition was over, they could start from not scratch. And I think that's the real big reason why those big breweries that we all know the names of, that if you are a craft brew aficionado, you know they're not very good. But it's just because they had all this time to tell society, this is beer, this is what you drink.
But if you think about it, at that time, they were the ones that innovated to the point where they no longer are innovating. And the craft breweries, in order to, like, what's the blue water market, they have to innovate. They have to come up with something different and stand out if they want to survive.
You have to explain what the blue water.
Yeah, the blue water theory is, I forget the guy who wrote the book, but it's a theory where people gravitate toward the blood in the water. And if you can find the blue water where no one's at, you won't have to fight to be seen. You'll be the only one there doing that. And it's easier to stake your claim in that area if nobody is there competing. So it's kind of what a lot of these places are having to do.
They've tried to get the culture of craft beer going in this city of Pomona, and they've done a great job.
I'm reluctant to say that we started the craft beer scene in Pomona.
So I think it's coming up pretty soon. I don't know if it's Oscar that says it, but this is kind of our aha moment where we're like, oh, this is the story.
Jason said it, and then we went back and interviewed Oscar and Raymond at the Rookery, and they confirmed it. And then we
Restaurant called Joey's Barbecue. At the time, your big distro companies had their hands on some craft beer, and that would be, specifically like Sierra Nevada, Pete's with
this is
Ale.
talking about
maybe it's
like
a little bit
the
after this.
growth of craft beer
Yeah.
in the area.
So, yeah, off the top of my head, I guess I can't really think of everything else. Like,
But this segment is like edited for dramatic effect, but it's funny. That's true. There's very few easily accessible.
Oh, here we go.
Be like, well, what do you got that's like a Blue Moon? What do you got that's like a Miller Lite? What do you got that's like a Corona? Just give me your highest ABV beer, bro.
Some people that just wanted to get drunk faster, and one of the aspects of craft beer is higher ABV. Some guy would be like, you can drink a triple IPA, and it's like drinking 3 IPAs in one. Well, no, the math's off, but I see where you're going with that.
All right, there are easier ways to get drunk than beer, right?
In case you're wondering why Jason is so sweaty, it was hot those days. We did this interview.
The same people complaining about why we didn't have Coors Light are the same people asking, oh, what barrel-aged saisons do you guys have on tap? And we're like, that's rad. Thank you for growing with us. We felt that we had a really good opportunity to not only push our agenda of craft beer, but guide it and direct it, because no one was really doing that around here.
So we've seen that demographic change a lot. And a lot of the people just started to recognize, like, I want to drink something that tastes good, not just something that gets me drunk. My family wasn't into craft beer before.
And that's really cool too, that like people are actually thinking of their own palates this time rather than what they've been told, and not just going for like the cheapest beer, but there's something else to this experience. It's not just about
And being like, you know what, this is something cool, this is something good. When I go to a bar in my hometown back in Kentucky or back up in Canada, I'm gonna try my local craft brewery, because maybe they're doing something different than what I can get off the shelf from anywhere. Culturally, ethnically, agically, if that's a word, I don't think there's a more diverse industry than the craft beer community. It doesn't matter if you're 21, white, or if you're 67, African American, or 45, Hispanic. You can all come together over this beverage and go, this is a damn good beer, isn't it? Let's hang out and drink over it.
It is pretty weird. I've been in the restaurant industry for a long time, and that is certainly new. That is not a normal thing.
You find your common ground with a lot of people on, we're both at a brewery. And then usually like one of the first questions are, when was your first craft beer? And the conversations that are had, and everyone just seems to find some neutral ground to be able to talk about.
Our crowd when we were Joey's was generally white. And what I noticed with craft beer is that it's one of the very few movements I've come across in my life that nobody cares what you are, where you're from. It doesn't matter. You just come in, everyone's nice to each other. And that's the best thing I think I can say about the community in general. It's nice when you just see friendships spark up out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, these people are coming in together, and you would never think they'd ever hang out at all. It's very, very cool.
That's our story. That was where we were just like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
It is more than a beer.
It's very much so. And what was crazy is then we started watching other documentaries in the film just to see kind of the landscape of what other people were doing and the stories they were telling. And they all have their own unique styles to them. But one thing that we noticed in every story, and then we talked to all the different breweries we've been talking to, that's true, like industry-wide. Mm-hmm. You might have a few exceptions here and there, obviously, but it seems so solid in the culture of craft beer is that it's multi-ethnic, intergenerational, super cool.
And I feel like a few times we spoke to people and brought that up, and they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. But it was happening. They just weren't aware of it. And I think that's beautiful. It's like we can all just shut up for a minute and stop arguing about our politics, our religion, the frustrating things of the day, and just hang out.
There's a few breweries that I talked with and I told them that, and they're like, wait, that's other? We're not the only ones?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you all are doing that. And it's like they're not talking to each other, it's just in their nature. So, and there's one thing that I really like about Scott is he's willing to dare. He's not just who he is. He's not afraid to go out on a limb and try something.
But on the other hand, you have to be realistic about what you're not good at, what you can't do, and what you need help.
And I thought this was good too, just talking about the infrastructure of the business. Like, what can you do? What can't you do? When do you hire someone? How many do you hire? All of the little nuances of owning a business. There's so many hard costs.
Too long in the kegs, or some stuff we should get ready to pull.
You can't just say, oh, I'm really good at cooking at home, I'm gonna open a restaurant. Or I make this really good home brew, I'm gonna open a brewery.
And that's
Oh, and
one.
this was
And
important
even
too,
if
what
you
he
make
just
a
said.
stellar, weird beer that no one else can make at home, it doesn't translate into a business model. If you have 20 people come through, is there gonna be enough beer for everybody?
It's a beast to get open every day.
And then being able to
And that's why we hired employees.
manage employees even. So
Yeah.
so that was our part one.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Hope you enjoyed it. But
Stick
yeah,
around
this
for part 2.
is a very, very interesting journey.
And
Yeah.
our eyes were opened too
Yeah.
through this. And I wish it hadn't taken so long to put together.
Yeah. Well, now that we had, it was also a good testing ground of knowing where we could streamline things. Because if you're a showrunner and do this all the time, then like piece of cake.
Yeah.
Indie filmmakers maybe don't have that much hands-on experience to be able to test these processes and learn from other shows. And this was our first series that we have done. I've done a couple movies, and so I've got the movie workflow down, but this is a totally different beast going into the documentary realm. Well, we'll see you in the next one.